A war that shattered Dominaria. There's no mistake that the conflict between Urza and Mishra shaped the very history of the multiverse itself. But time did not stop at that climactic moment. History would continue to be written by the survivors of Urza's cataclysm, those who endured the very end. Hey everyone, Simon here for the Aether Hub, bringing you more Magic the Gathering lore. Today is the start of Brothers War lore, and I must admit I didn't expect it to start like this. We travel back in time in our very first chapter of the story, but we don't go to the Brothers War, rather to the years shortly after the war's conclusion, as we meet with familiar titans of MTG lore as they try to pick up the pieces of a world torn apart by the arrogance of these two brothers. Before we begin, I first wanted to shout out the supporters of the channel who have become members. They help this channel keep up with content, and I really couldn't do it without them. If you'd like to join the Vorthos army, consider becoming a member of the channel yourself by clicking the join button at the YouTube homepage. You can also support by simply leaving this video a like, becoming a subscriber, or sharing it with friends. Now let's continue with Chapter 1 of the Brothers War, The End, written by Miguel Lopez. All of those who survived the cataclysmic Silex blast on Terracer in 64 AR knew the event was the beginning of the end. 5 years later, life went on, though spring and summer grew shorter until the seasons for thriving life lasted only weeks. Farming proved increasingly difficult while game and livestock grew scarce. After a council meeting in the government house of Pendragon, Kayla Ben Krug sat looking over ominous grain reports and newly drawn maps that showed the vast emptiness that was a post-apocalyptic Terracer. Her page came in and introduced the guest for her last appointment, Talnos. Though his expression was familiar, his nose and ears were blackened with frostbite, his body gaunt and skeletal. She had thought her husband Urza's former apprentice was dead. Talnos, who now resembled his old master with a frosty demeanor and white hair, told her that he had been with Urza at the end. Talnos felt that Urza had saved them from Mishra, who would have activated the Silex himself if he'd gotten the chance. Not only that, Mishra was serving a dark master, a demon of machines. They would have seen that all of Dominaria would be fused with metal and malice, lost to a dark tyrant. It was Urza's mercy in activating the Silex that saved them all. Kayla wasn't so sure. She had thought that her son, Harbin, would be safe, but she hadn't seen him since the Silex blast. Certainly, their son was dead. She couldn't bring herself to forgive her husband for that, nor Talnos for convincing her to let Harbin join the war efforts. That, however, was not the reason for their meeting. Talnos pulled out aged yellow papers from his cloak, designs for clay avengers, ornithopters, steam engine, ships, machines, and devices he and Urza had made for the war. None of this technology could function without power stones though, and they were now very scarce. Talnos explained to her that he had found a map of Argive depicting the largest stockpile of power stones, and he could use what little stock of the power stones he still possessed to build machines to excavate the island. They would be tools, not weapons, used to rebuild instead of destroy. Talnos relayed one final message from Urza to his wife. He wanted Kayla to remember him not as he was, but who he tried to be. This message filled Kayla with rage. Her husband and his brother had destroyed the world because neither of them could talk to one another. She had lost everything good in her life because of them. Her father, her child, her kingdom. And while she wasn't happy her husband died, she was happy that he was gone. She wouldn't remember Urza as he wished, but for as he was. Talnos blinked away tears and said, "I'm sorry, but Urza is not dead. He became something else." Spring came to Pendragon while the city's walls were still being rebuilt. With the new season came new dangers. Kayla's scout captain, Miral, reported bands of warriors, an amalgamation of banners of those who had supported both sides of the war, marching towards their city. Tanos' automatons were speeding up the process of reconstruction. Though Kayla first wished to use these automatons simply to help rebuild the city, she began to reconsider after seeing this unwieldy army heading their direction. Perhaps they needed to be repurposed to wield weapons after all. 2 months later, Kayla guessed roughly 10,000 refugees marched past the city walls. 5 armed and armored emissaries split off from the march and rode for the city's gates. Kayla and her scouts walked through the city to meet them. One of the emissaries spoke, explaining that their pilgrimage was to purge the land of magic and artifice. They were the remnants of the Church of Tal, those who worshipped an old sun god, and who now welcomed the citizens of Pendragon to join their crusade. The speaker revealed himself to be Riddick of Krug, who had served Kayla's father as an officer during the Brothers' War. He told her that they had marched through what was now the Gixian lands in the far north, through the desert that was once the Falagi Empire, through the ruins of Krug, and now they marched to the Iron Tower. He asked Kayla to join them, but she refused. She had a city to rebuild and would not spend that time filling graves. So she offered the pilgrims refuge and trade instead. While the pilgrims were permitted within the city, Tanos came to Kayla, reporting that the Talites had attacked one of his civil automatons, completely unprovoked. Scout Captain Meryl appeared, informing Kayla that she needed to be taken to safety. The Talites were preparing to march against the city. Kayla refused to hide or flee. Pendragon would not be another Krug. Instead, she sent scouts to find and bring her grandson, Jarzel, to her, then ordered Tanos to arm his civil automatons. She also ordered the militia to be levied. They needed everyone who could fight. Though the pilgrimage was ragged, they had greater numbers than the citizens of Pendragon. Kayla knew what she was asking when she gave out the orders: a return to the cruelties of the Brothers' War. She was disheartened by how little the world had learned from Urza and Mishra's mistakes. Tanos parted with her, hurrying to start converting his machines to fight against the Talites, and Kayla stepped out onto the portcullis to confront Riddick. He told her that Pendragon could not be saved. The city relied too heavily on artifice to stay against the cold and dark, a winter brought about by the machine demons, one and the same with the creations of Urza and Mishra. Kayla realized the Talites long before now, watching their everyday use of civil machines. Riddick urged the citizens of the city to march the machines into the sea, and to tear down the White Tower, a symbol of the alliance between mages, artificers, and historians, or the fate of all the enemies before them would be shared with Pendragon. He gave Kayla until dawn to decide if she would join them, or die, along with the age of machines and magic. As I said at the start of this video, I didn't think we'd be getting much new lore from this set. Maybe a glimpse here and there of events during the war that were left a bit vague, but they started right away with all brand new lore picking up right after the war's conclusion, and I'm really excited to see how this continues. Aside from my expectations being shattered, I love how right out of the gate they want to set people's standards of the Brothers' War, that this wasn't a fight between good and evil, but rather a sibling rivalry fueled by arrogance and stubbornness, all at the cost of the lives of everyday people. This is a world recovering from a wound, and they rightfully lay that burden at the feet of Urza. Yeah, they certainly don't treat him like a hero in this story, at least not the way his own wife portrays him. Yeesh. Anyway guys, that's going to do it for Chapter 1 of the Brothers' War. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Again, I just want to thank our channel members as well as any of you who may be considering becoming a member yourselves. Thank you all so much for watching, and until next time guys, see ya!